G'day folks, it's Rob here and I'm out on location today at Hamish's and Nicole's Naughty Goat Farm where they have goats and plants and aquaponics and also Hamish. G'day mate.
Hey.
So we're out here at the farm and really wanted to give you a bit of a look at the awesome system that Hamish has created, and not only that, give you a bit of an update on our fish, which are now Hamish's fish, in the tank behind the camera there. So I suppose if we want to just start off with the basics, H.
So we've got about 1,800 litres in the tank, and then we've got a series of filters here. So we've got 2 radial flow filters. The water comes out of the tank through a slow solids lifting outlet, across and then through past 2 valves so that I can isolate each side. The reason we split it into 2 is to slow down the flow so that there's a bit more retention time in each side, each filter side.
Excellent idea, especially when it's hard to find a single unit that's squat enough for a system like this with a fish tank without raising and building infrastructure and that sort of thing.
Correct, yeah, so everything from the tank down to the sump is all gravity, obviously. So the water comes out, splits here. This allows me to separate each system with the valve. Comes into a radial flow settler. Because we've split the flow, the water coming into the radial flow settler is very slow and steady, which is great. Then the water comes out of the radial flow settler into the moving bed biofilter. I've got one of Rob's fantastic filter socks, which is catching any solids that are coming out of the radial flow settler. And then we've got the plastic, I think it's K1, is it, Rob?
Oh, I think that might be the K5.
K5?
Yeah, different brands, different numbers, yeah.
Which seems to be doing very well. Then through I guess a T, so it's sucking the water from the bottom, coming out, and this is where the water recombines.
Okay.
And then goes back into a sump. So this sump is actually a grey water sump that I picked up second hand and then scrubbed out. So the water is going back, comes together in a T down here, and then comes back in through one of Rob's uni seals back into the sump. So then there's a pump in the bottom there, which is a 20,000 litre an hour pump. It's a pump that can be adjusted, so you can actually adjust the flow.
Okay, similar to the one that we run on our system.
Correct, yeah. I think at the moment I've got it set to about 60%.
Okay.
Maybe 70%, but there's a bit of extra room there if I add more beds later.
Excellent.
I can turn it up. That was also a recommendation from Rob's channel. So the pump actually hooks up to a cam lock fitting, and the reason for that is that because this sump is underground, it's about 1 metre deep under the soil surface, it allows me to easily pull the pump out. From the pump, the water comes out through that cam lock fitting and then goes into a T-fitting with 2 valves. One goes towards the fish tank and the other one goes towards the grow beds, so I can actually adjust them there if I need to as well. Down the bottom of the tank, you'll also see maybe that silvery thing in the bottom. That's actually a stainless steel float valve, which allows me to automatically top up this tank so that the pump never runs dry if we were to spring a leak or if the system dropped with a lot of evaporation.
And also too, the beauty of this having the solids lifting outlet coming from the top of the fish tank and not plumbing it from underneath, which was an option that H had. It means that if the pump does for whatever reason fail, or if there is a leak in the system and the water runs out, the fish will always have water in there. Not only that, they're also going to have oxygen because the air is on a separate line. Just quickly, there is a Venturi feeding air into the system up here, a twin Venturi setup, as well as oxygen coming or air coming in through stones through an air compressor line. Just quickly, a bit of an update on the fish. It is a bit hard to see with the reflection here, but yeah, I did sacrifice my phone just before, dip it in the water. You can see the fish down the bottom there swimming around, and they all look to be fairly healthy and happy, and there were no losses at all, were there?
No.
No?
None, which is great.
Excellent.
Then you'll probably also see the water flowing back in this side. That's actually the return line through a 100mm stormwater uniseal from Rob's shop.
Thanks for the plugs, mate.
No worries. Well, I don't know where else I'd get them. So that's really good. So it made this setup really easy.
Yeah.
The hardest thing was digging this massive hole for this underground grey water tank.
Just to show you, not everything is perfect, folks. There was a bit of subsidence, you said, because of the size of the hole. and a bit of an issue with the left-hand side moving bed bio. So it's just something easy, turn the water off, pack it up, and away you go. And also too, for you folks who are going to spot it and say that's an easy lift-off lid, H has a couple of screws. Where are we? Here we go. This lid screws on, so no little kiddies or cane toads. I'd be more worried about cane toads, quite honestly, can fall down in there and basically sully the water. I really like H's little cupboard here as well. A lot more organised than me. Everything is labelled, so you know where stuff is. All the pumps are in here, nice and dry. And there is also a backup system here. Pretty much all the same as what I've got, but a commercial one. Basically, the power fails, trips a relay in there, and then the backup is fired. That little silver pump down there.
12-volt pump down there.
That's the one that was used to bring the fish over here as well in the barrels, and there's a couple of batteries in there, and that pretty much will turns the fish tank into a spa bath, just like our systems. And there are a couple of replacement bits and pieces, backup pumps and whatever in there as well.
This Rob is actually a Wi-Fi water quality meter.
Oh, okay.
So it gives us the pH, the temperature, does all of those sort of parameters as well.
No problem.
And it keeps a graph of it, which is quite handy, so you can see if there's any peaks or troughs. If you just have a look in the centre here, Rob, you'll see there's a pump down the bottom here, which is just one of those really cheap, like $60, $70 eBay blue pumps that seem to be everywhere. So that's actually set up, again, stolen Rob's ideas, that's actually set up to clean out these radial flow settlers. Just taking you through the process of how I clean these out. The first step is that I turn off the valve to the side that I'm going to be cleaning. Yep. So I turn that off. I then flip this valve around. This is just a drain. You'll see that it's actually teed, and I've used a combined drain back to the sump. Yep. So if I turn that, then it drains all the water down just to that level, so that I'm not wasting a lot of water. I can then flip on this side tap, which essentially allows the water to come from the bottom of this. It's got a little fitting like Rob uses that sits on the bottom and sucks the solids from the bottom of the tank out through here into the pump, and then back out through this hose, and I can use it to water things or put it into a mineralisation tank, which is on the cards for down the track.
Just a quick heads up for you folks who may be new to aquaponics, or maybe this is the first time you've seen it and would like to know more. I do have a backyard aquaponics beginner's guide available. It is an online guide, $19.95 US, and it covers everything from what is aquaponics all the way through to how to start your own system, including how to build a small one using recycled components and some basic plumbing bits and pieces. And then it carries on into managing the system, how to look after your plants, suggestions for plants when you first start off, and that sort of thing. So do check it out. There is a link down below, and if you do get stuck after you purchase the guide, you can ask me 2 free questions over there, which I don't tend to close off very quickly, just to get you out of the woods if you're having problems with your build, or some issues that may arise after you start running your system and cycling it and that sort of thing. So do check it out. And for you folks who have stuck around this long, just to let you know, if you use the code Naughty Goat Farm, you will get $5 off for the first 10 people who decide to use it and jump on board and purchase the guide. So that's enough of me spruiking my wares. Now back to the video. So we'll have a bit of a look at the plant side of things. H has been kind enough to do up a test in this nifty little 3D printed caddy here. A slightly over 20 parts per million reading on the nitrate. 0 nitrite, as you always should have in a cycled system. Trace ammonia, which is quite common. And the pH, depending on who looks at it and their rate of colour blindness, anywhere from 6.8 to 7.2. So you're pretty happy with the readings you're getting from the system?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really happy. It just seems to be really stable. So I was testing every day, and I've stopped now. I'm down to sort of every week.
Not a problem.
Every few days.
And you did cycle with the obligatory Charlie Carp?
I did. Yeah, Charlie Carp was brilliant. In fact, we planted into the bed straight away before we even got the fish, and the plants were doing fantastically right from day one.
And the fish have only been in there for a week, so most of the nutrients for these plants has come from the Charlie Carp and what's been built up in the system?
Yeah, I would say so. I also used a bit of seaweed fertiliser, so that's also been put a bit of that in the system. I've also put some magnesium through Epsom salts, and also some DTPA. Have I got that acronym right?
Certainly have.
Chelated iron.
Yeah, we did notice on some of the older leaves there was a bit of a chlorosis happening. The older leaves is generally magnesium, newer leaves are generally iron, if it's one of those elements. I have noticed as well, you're getting a little bit of powdery mildew on some of them, like little outbreaks like this, you know, they're pretty easy to handle with something like a pH up, say like a potassium bicarbonate or an eco fungicide, which is potassium bicarbonate as its main constituent. And some people use oils and all sorts of things. So there was one plant up here, or one leaf up here we were looking at. Just to give you guys a bit of a tip, it might be a good idea to cull a leaf like that, because it's going to be very hard to
maybe this
keep
one
on
too.
top of them. Yep. And yeah, that little one over the back there as well, might as well nip him off as well. And generally speaking, I get these those infected leaves away from the system as far as I can, just so they don't spread the fungus any further.
So how would I use, was it potassium bicarbonate you said?
Yeah, potassium bicarbonate. I also use it as a pH stabilizer. It adds alkalinity to the system. I generally add a teaspoon per litre or quart of water. Okay, you've already got some. Oh, sweet. Not a problem. Yeah, well, it's just basically a foliar feed, and actually it's feeding the leaves, but it's also raising the pH to the point where the mildew doesn't like it, and that's pretty much all what knocks it on the head. Another thing people may have noticed is the beds, for only having fish in there for a week, are rather well planted out. How come so many plants?
Oh look, we got given a whole lot of seconds seedlings that were sort of on their last legs, and because we were feeding up with Charlie Carp before we got the fish, I thought, well, we'll just throw them in here because they're, you know, better in the system than out of the system, and they all seem to have gone really well. We've got a lot of lettuce, different varieties of lettuce. We've got these, which I thought looked actually like a pumpkin, but apparently they're called a tromboncino or something like that. And so they've actually started flowering, which is great to see. We've also got some tomato plants, which are also sort of those seconds, and they're starting to fruit, which is nice to see. And yeah, so there's a few more tomatoes, and there's some cucumbers over the back there, which are starting. There's some, I think they're eggplant. This is stevia, nice sweet leaf stevia. Some corn over the back as well, lots more lettuce. So we've been eating salads off this every night since for the last probably 3 or 4 weeks since we set the system up.
Sweet, and I can see you've got loads of replacements ready to go through when the
time
comes. Thought I'd just ask Hamish if there's anything you'd like to spruik, mate.
Oh, look, absolutely. I'm always willing to talk about our products here at Naughty Goat Farm. We have a registered herd of Anglo-Nubian goats, which we milk, and we make soap from the milk. The goat milk soap is really good for people with skin conditions, so anyone with eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, and we have some amazing results. We get people contacting us all the time that have tried our soap and it's fixed up their skin problems.
Yep.
So anyone with sensitive skin or newborn babies, those types of things, we highly recommend our soap for that.
And we've been customers for over a decade now, I think. So, and we are more than chuffed with the quality of the soap. In fact, I'm going to ask to pick up some more today.
And we've already boxed it up for you,
I
mate.
have, yeah.
And some shave soap, so you can get rid of that thing on your face.
Fuck off. Now, I have some fantastic news for you folks who would like to try some of Hamish and Nicole's awesome goat soap or other products. They've offered our viewers a 15% discount when you use the code RobBob at checkout, and that's valid through to the end of February. We can definitely recommend the soap. That is for certain, 100% certain. Fantastic soap. Not too sure about the beard shaving bits and pieces, but yeah, the soap is absolutely fantastic. So thank you again to Hamish and Nicole for hosting us out there, and don't forget to use RobBob for 15% off at checkout over on the Naughty Goat Farm website. Back to the vid. Well, we've talked about what's in the beds. How about how the beds work?
Let's talk about from the tee. So the pressurized water line out from the pump, as I said, it splits to go to the tank and then also to the beds. The line that comes to the beds just runs underneath here. You see the blue line down there?
Yep.
I started out by using barbed fittings, which actually fit inside this, I think it's 20mm or 25mm line quite well, with then hose clamps on them. But I actually found, because we have small kids here, my two boys love to come out here and climb all over everything, and they were actually knocking them out, and I was getting some leaks.
Yep.
So I bit the bullet and paid the money and just bought the compression fittings for the
They'll
pressure
last you for
lines.
decades anyway.
And they'll, and I figured I redid it so that it was all bulletproof for the kids.
And you can reuse them anyway, can't you, if you redesign
Absolutely.
the system?
You undo it, slide it out. It's got an O-ring in there, and it's all sealed up nicely. So, so the water runs down through that line, which is pressurised, and up to each bed through a little fitting here, and then a 90, and then it goes into the bed here. And I've just teed it out, and I've put one of these little scrubbies, which I've actually cut out a little keyhole in, so that it runs around like that and picks up any solids that are coming out of the system.
I dare say, looking at your other filtration up there, I don't think there's going to be a amount.
No. So I can adjust obviously the flow with the main valve that comes out of the pump, or I can do it individually by bed.
Yep.
And then the drains, so each of the beds obviously has got a bell siphon in it, which comes from the top here, just one of Rob's designs. Watch any of his amazing videos. Comes down here, and down here, this is a little bit different. I haven't seen anyone do exactly this, but these fittings are 1-inch fittings, and I've actually got an S that I've used. I wanted to make sure that there was no place for the kids to drop things into the drain, and also because we have a lot of cane toads in Queensland, I didn't want any cane toads getting in there and down into the sump. So I've actually used a bit of flexible pipe through a hole in an end cap, and this little S just allows it to give it a little bit of back pressure to start and stop the siphon a little easier.
Good idea. I've seen a lot of people run straight pipes straight down from their bell siphons, and they just don't get that water lock occurring. So yeah, excellent.
The way that this is set up at the moment, the starting and stopping of the siphon is like instant. I've watched them all, and when I first set it up, and with the way that is with that S curve, it just starts and stops perfectly.
Excellent.
Down this end, there's a cap on the end which has got a rubber seal in it, so that's not glued on. I can actually undo that cap and slide in another piece of 100mm tube and extend the drain out along this way, and put a few more beds here if my wife lets me take over her nursery.
Not a problem. Great idea.
She can have the other side of the greenhouse.
That's fair enough.
Before I start taking over this side.
Hello.
Say hey, Flynn.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going? That's good.
You like coming out and picking the salad, don't you?
Yeah. So with the feed, you've gone a little bit different, your selection.
We have. So, look, we're probably always going to use some commercial feed in the system, especially once we get a few more fish. And I mean, the system can probably handle, 50 fish in that tank?
Easily 50 in that tank.
Yeah, so at the moment we've only got about 11 or 12 fish in there. So so the idea is for us to generate some of our own food from waste. So I've had this biopod for years, and it's a brilliant system. It's designed to breed black soldier fly larvae. The soldier fly come in, land under here, and there's one right there, right on cue. She is right now laying eggs into that piece of plastic corrugated stuff. Wow. Look at that. I've never seen that before. Well done, Rob. Thank you for bringing her.
Not a problem.
Look at that. She's laying eggs. So they come in, they lay in that corrugated plastic. And then when the eggs hatch out, they drop down into here, and we just put all our food scraps in here. And it has this ramp that comes up the side. Soldier fly larvae self-harvest, so once they get to a certain size, they'll actually climb up that ramp, and then they drop down that hose into that little bucket at the bottom.
So they're basically, you can collect them in a one-stop shopping, basically.
There's actually none in there at the moment. But we also have, and I know this sounds terrible, but we also have the odd housefly or blowfly, which will also generate obviously eggs, and they will also climb out through there as well. We've only had this system running a couple of weeks. As the soldier fly larvae take over, the house flies get out competed, and then they will die off. But what I have noticed is that the fish will take soldier fly larvae, and they will also take even more readily any housefly maggots that come off as well.
And the worm farm, is there any plans to harvest the worms for the fish, or is that just something that you just
I haven't actually tried. I haven't tried feeding them to the fish, but if they'll take it, then...
They smash them. I've never known a Jade Perch to spit out a worm.
Okay. We've only had this going a little while, but there are plenty of worms in there. We've kind of just set it up and left it. So yeah, we could absolutely harvest those as well.
Yeah.
There's always plenty of stuff around. We've got 2.5 acres here at Naughty Goat Farm, so there's always plenty of stuff that we can turn into protein for the fish.
Yep.
And my goal really would be, it would be awesome if we could get to 100% fish feed. I don't think it'll ever happen, but it would be a nice goal.
While we're talking about the sustainability of this system, the power used that comes in through there, I don't know if people can make this out. You have a number of panels over on the shed and on the house.
So we actually have 22 kilowatts of solar panels.
That's a sizable system in anyone's book.
It is, yeah. It's actually pretty much powers our whole house and our property, and also charges. We've got 2 electric cars, and we charge those as well from the solar. So we have 0 running costs on the vehicles, which is great. This is actually how we're going to power this system, I guess, as a backup. So at the moment we've got a backup air pump which runs off a 12-volt battery. So this is kind of like a giant UPS, I guess. It's a 2 kilowatt inverter charger. So if I pair this with a bank of 12-volt batteries, making up a 24-volt pack, this will actually charge off the 240-volt power, so our mains power, which most of the time is actually solar anyway. Yeah. So this will actually charge those batteries off that, and if the power ever fails, it will seamlessly continue to run the whole system, air pumps, water pumps, everything, from the batteries. And if I size the system correctly, it probably run for 24 hours without me having to touch the system. So we could have a 24-hour blackout, which is, I don't think we've ever had, but we could. And this would keep running. And then if that failed, then the 12-volt, 240-volt system would also then kick in and run for another probably 24, 48 hours
and
to
then
keep the fish alive.
Like anyone on acreage, you've probably got a little Jenny stuck aside somewhere anyway. So
Yep, really all I need to do is add a few more batteries and I can make it run as long as I can. This also allows me to charge that battery bank either off the 240 volt mains power or off a bank of separate off-grid solar panels.
Separate to the existing?
Yep, so this will charge solar or 240 volt and charge those batteries, and it will also continue to run the system off those solar panels if the 240 volt goes down. So the beauty of that is if I put 4 or 5 solar panels, and I've got some second-hand ones in the shed, it will actually keep those batteries topped up and the system running on a sunny day without even drawing off the batteries.
Excellent. And where did you learn about that sort of the solar? Is there any YouTube channels you'd recommend?
Lots. Look, a good mate of mine, Andy, he has got a web channel called the Off-Grid Garage. And he is an absolute wealth of knowledge. He does battery tests, he does inverter tests, the whole works.
I've actually met him at one of your shindigs.
He's a lovely guy.
Lovely guy. Great chap to talk to.
Yep, very good guy.
So I just wanted to thank Hamish for giving us a tour of this system, mate. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for the fish.
Not a problem. Just something quickly for all you folks out there with chickens who make a chicken feeder similar to the one that I did. This is the man that came up with the idea. You'll see it all over the internet, but this is the man who pretty much all posted it first. So you can thank Mr. H for that. Not only that, all the knowledge you've passed on in the community over the years. You've been around the forums for quite a while before they all died, and also on groups and bits and pieces. If anyone does have any questions they'd like to ask about the system, pop them in the comments down below and I will pass them on to H if I can't answer them. But thanks, mate. I really do appreciate it.
And thank you for everything you do, Rob. I'm sure that all of your viewers would agree that the amount of information and knowledge that you share on your channel is second to none. There is really no one else that does what you do, and you've really kept aquaponics alive. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. H. I really appreciate that. So, we will pretty much all leave it there. I do hope you're all well and happy, and your own gardens and systems are booming, and I'll catch you next video. Cheers, folks.
Ciao.
I've got a wobbly tooth.
You've got a wobbly tooth. You're going to feed that to the fish? Why not? You're going to keep it.
Do you want to tell the people in YouTube land that you've got a wobbly tooth?
I've got a wobbly tooth.